What if everything you were taught about who discovered America wasn't the full story? What if there were people crossing the Atlantic long before Christopher Columbus, and their journeys were never fully recorded, or worse, erased? And what if the historical records we rely on today were written by systems that didn't value every story equally? If that sounds unbelievable, check the description. Sources are linked so you can verify everything discussed in this video. Because today, we're not just asking a question, we're exploring one of the most debated ideas in history. Did Africans reach the Americas before Columbus? Welcome to 400 Plus, where we explore Black history, Black excellence, and the stories that don't always get told the right way. This video is not about pushing myths or forcing conclusions. It's about understanding the difference between what is proven, what is possible, and what might have been lost. Because history isn't always clean, and sometimes the truth sits somewhere in between certainty and silence. Most people grow up hearing one simple version of history. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic and discovered America. But that statement is already misleading, because when Columbus arrived, the land was already home to millions of indigenous people, with their own civilizations, trade systems, and cultures. So Columbus didn't discover America, he encountered it. And once you understand that, a bigger question opens up. If he wasn't the first, then who else might have arrived before him? One of the most well-known arguments comes from Ivan van Sertima. In his book, They Came Before Columbus, he suggested that Africans, particularly from West Africa, may have made contact with the Americas before European explorers. This idea didn't come from nowhere. It was built on historical interpretations, patterns in navigation, and attempts to connect overlooked global interactions. But here's where we need to be careful, because presenting a theory is one thing, proving it is another. One of the most repeated points comes from Columbus's own writings. In his journal entries, he described indigenous people having gold ornaments, metal-tipped tools, and trade goods. He also mentioned that some of these items came from lands to the south or southeast. Now, at first glance, that sounds mysterious. And this is where some people step in and say, what if those goods came from Africa? But when historians analyze this carefully, they point out something important. Indigenous societies already had established trade networks. Goods moved across regions through exchange routes, alliances, and regional trade systems. So when Columbus heard this came from the south, it most likely referred to other indigenous regions, not another continent. This is a key lesson. Not every mystery is proof of something bigger. Sometimes it's a misunderstanding of what already existed. Now let's talk about something that still raises real questions. The Mali Empire was one of the richest and most advanced empires of its time. During the rule of Mansa Musa, stories were recorded about a previous ruler, Abu Bakr II. According to these accounts, Abu Bakr was obsessed with what lay beyond the Atlantic Ocean. So he did something bold. He sent out a fleet. Not a small group, but hundreds of ships. The first expedition reportedly failed, with only one ship returning. Most leaders would stop there. But Abu Bakr didn't. He launched a second, much larger expedition. And this time, none of them came back. Now pause for a second. A fleet disappears into the Atlantic Ocean. No survivors. No confirmed wreckage. No clear ending. So what happened? Some believe they reached the Americas and never returned. Others believe they were lost to the ocean. And here's the honest truth. We do not know. But the story itself shows something powerful. West African civilizations were capable of large-scale exploration, something often left out of mainstream history. Now let's bring science into this. Ocean current research shows that ships can travel from West Africa to the Americas using natural currents. In fact, the Atlantic currents create a pathway that flows from Africa toward the Caribbean and into parts of South America. This means something important. The journey was physically possible, and that changes the conversation. Because now we're no longer asking, could they have done it? We're asking, did they actually do it? Some of the more controversial ideas come from interpretations of artifacts. For example, the Olmec civilization created massive stone heads, and some people claim these heads have African features. But mainstream archaeology does not support that conclusion. Experts say the features are consistent with indigenous populations. And this highlights an important issue. Not every visual similarity equals historical connection. Without supporting evidence like artifacts, written records, or DNA, these claims remain speculation. Let's be clear about what historians look for. To confirm contact between two civilizations, well, we would expect shared artifacts, genetic links, written records from both sides, evidence of settlements or influence. As of now, no confirmed African artifacts in pre-Columbian America, no verified genetic markers linking West Africans to early indigenous populations, no documented settlements. And this is why mainstream history does not accept the theory as proven. But here's where the conversation becomes deeper. Because history is not just about evidence, it's also about preservation. African history has experienced colonization, destruction of knowledge systems, loss of oral traditions, and rewriting through external perspectives. So we have to ask, if something did happen, would it have been recorded? And if it was recorded, would it have been preserved? Or would it have been ignored, dismissed, or erased? So where does that leave us? Here is the most honest position. There is no solid, widely accepted evidence that Africans reached the Americas before Columbus. At the same time, there are documented stories, possibilities, and unanswered questions that keep the theory alive. And when you combine that with a history of erased and overlooked contributions, you begin to understand why this debate still exists. So the truth is not extreme. It sits in the middle. We cannot confidently say it happened, but we also cannot confidently say it was impossible or never occurred. This isn't just about proving a theory. It's about how we approach history. Do we blindly accept what we're taught? Do we reject everything outside the mainstream? Or do we investigate, question, and think critically? Because real understanding doesn't come from picking a side. It comes from asking better questions. History is not just a timeline of events. It's a collection of stories, shaped by power, perspective, and preservation. So, when we ask, did Africans reach the Americas before Columbus? We're really asking something deeper. How much of history do we truly know? And how much has been lost, ignored, or never told? Considering how bad African Americans were treated and still are today in most cases. If this made you think differently, subscribe to 400 Plus, because we're not here to repeat history. We're here to